Hey everyone, good evening. So this is my first live broadcast that I'm doing here, and I'm really only doing it to test this Killer Instinct PCB, the stream, using the Geekworm version 2.0 LVDS to HDMI board. So why I'm doing this is because there was a video this evening or earlier this afternoon that Mike of All Trades or MOAT did. He was showing off his belt for a tournament that he's having for Killer Instinct. And at the end of that video, he had said he was looking for a HDMI dongle for Killer Instinct from John D uh, because they wanted to stream the video directly to computer so they could, stream it out to everybody. Now I've had a little bit of experience with this, so for like Outrun and Goldent XL, I've been able to stream to my computer using the Geekworm board, but it's a certain version board. It's the version 2.0 board, and this is kind of unscientific, but if you open up the PCB and you look at the color of the board, basically if it's a green board, your best bet for using HDMI out is going to be the Geekworm version 2.0 board. The 1.5 board usually won't work, and the newer one, which is version 2.5, will work, but it blinks in and out all the time. So what I did today was I do happen to have a Killer Instinct PCB. I put all the updates on it. So we're going to test it. Now I will say that it works, and I'm going to turn it on here in a minute, but there's a few caveats. So I'm using the original capture card that I used was a cheap like $40 one. It was like HDMI to USB 3. I can't locate that, so I had to buy a different capture card, which is a pretty expensive one. It's the Elgato HD60X, and that works fine as well with the version 2 Geekworm board. Now, with the cheaper one that I did, in order for it to get to work, to stream to the PC, I had to set the jumper on the Geekworm board to single 8. And that worked with the old cheaper one that I had. With this one, with the Elgato one, I didn't have to change any jumpers, and it just worked. Now it outputs the 1920 by 1080, which is what the video is going to show. But there are settings that you can go into where you can set it to where it outputs the 1280 to 960 on the on the streaming side. So it's the exact same ratio that's on the screen. But for these purposes, I'm going to keep it at 1920 by 1080. The other caveat on this is that you don't want to mess with any of the video capture device settings that are in OBS. Leave everything on default. If you start messing around, like trying to change like the frame rate or trying to change like the video output, things of that nature, the video will become corrupted and start blinking in and out. But if you leave everything the way it is, from what I can tell, everything works. So with that, also the sound is coming from the speakers from the Arcade 1-Up. So when you're streaming this, you're not going to get any sound. There's a way on the board to where you can wire it so you can get the sound through the HDMI, but I'm not sure how to do it. I know the Code Always Wins. He did a video, I think, on how to connect that up so you could get audio through the HDMI, but I haven't done that. So the sound that you're going to hear from the game is actually from the speakers from the Arcade 1-Up. So with all that said, let's go ahead and turn the game on. So I'm turning it on right now. Should come up here. There's the loading screen. Now I'm going to play for about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm sorry if you can't hear the sound completely. It's loud to me. The mic might not pick it up. But I'm going to try to play for about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm also going to go into spectate mode because that's the thing that you're wanting to do on these. So we're in right now. Just waiting for it to refresh. Okay, so let's just go into spectate mode. So I see a few over there. Let's just go into this one here. And the reason why I want to stay on for about 15 minutes or so is to see if it blinks in and out. With the version 2 boards, it sometimes blinks in and out on some games. So I'm just trying to confirm, make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, 15 minutes may not be a long enough time to test that, but I may have more time later to leave it on for like an hour or two. But for right now, about 15 minutes seems to be what I'll be doing. Okay, so here we are in spectate mode, watching a particular fight here. So I'll just be silent for a little bit here and let this run for a few minutes, and then go into another one in spectate mode and see how that goes. Okay, so again, the spectate mode seems to work pretty well. I don't see any blinking out or anything like that on the video, so I think we're good on that. So let's see what it looks like in Killer Instinct 2, if there's a game that we can to see if that works as well. So we're gonna go ahead and leave this game. Sorry, I was checking some stream settings. It was saying that his low bit rate was pretty low. But at any rate, like I said, I'm very new to this, so so some of these settings I may not have right. But let's see if there's anything for Killer Instinct 2. Well, there's nothing for spectate mode in Killer Instinct 2. But I'm going to go into Killer Instinct 2 just to see what it looks like. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to attempt to do a fighting in here. I am no good at fighting games. Fighting games are not my thing. I don't usually get fighting games. I just happened to get this PCB a few months ago for cheap for testing purposes like this. So I am going to lose pretty quickly. And I'm playing on a Mortal Kombat control panel because I didn't have a Killer Instinct one, so I'm not sure if the buttons are mapped properly. So basically I'm just button mashing because as I stated, I am not good at this game or any fighting game for that matter. This is really only for testing purposes, to test the streaming. So. Well, as you can see, I lost, which is going to be pretty much what I thought it would be. So I'm going to go ahead and exit the game. So I'm not seeing any blinking in or out from the Geekworm board, so that's a good thing with the version 2 board. Again, the version 1.5 board and the version 2.5 board do not work with Killer Instinct, but the version 2 does. And again, I'm using a Elgato HD60X capture device, and don't have to, with that device, I don't have to make any changes to the jumpers. But on my older one, which once I find, I'll test it. It was just, again, it was an HDMI to USB 3 capture device, and I had to set that when I did Outrun and Goldent XL. I had to set that to what was it, single 8 in order for it to work. Sorry, I meant to go in the spectator mode on Killer Instinct. So let's go into another one here. We're just going to do spectate mode. Yeah, so like again, it seems to be working properly. Again, I'm just running this for about another, probably do it for about another 10 minutes just to see if it blinks in and out. And again, it's when you hook it up to the using the OBS, it does 1920 by 1080, but you can go into the streaming settings on there and tell it to actually scale it to 1280 by 960. Well, he's out of there, so so it's not, 1920 by 1080, so that it's actually 1280 by 960, which is what the arcade one-up is, or 1280 by 1024, which is with the Pro outputs. So either way that you want to do it. Now, the only thing I didn't notice, I didn't notice if it's like cutting off the bottom or anything like that off the screen. I don't see anything being cut off. Like, for example, like if you hook up like a PCB that outputs 1280 by 960, if you hooked it up to a monitor that's 1280 by 1024, like there'll be some additional lines of resolution, like 64 lines, that will appear, and vice versa. If you connect a 1280 by 1024 PCB to a 1280 by 960, it's going to cut off the last 64 lines. I don't think that's happening here. I think I see everything, but that's the one thing I'm not sure of. But all the spectate. So again, I know I've repeated this a few times. So this is the Killer Instinct PCB from a 3/4 scale machine, not the Pro, and we've hooked up a Geekworm LVDS to HDMI card to it, so we can stream it to the computer, so you can broadcast it like I'm doing right now on YouTube. but it has to be the version 2.0 board, the version 1.5 board, and the so you see how it's blinking in and out there. That's what I was afraid of. So that's the first blink out that it did. Um, but that was the first time it did that. We were like, we're what, about maybe about, not sure how many minutes we're into it, but maybe about 5 or 10 minutes into it, it blinked in and out briefly. And that may have been because I have how I have this hooked up is I have the card. The card's not secured to anything. It's kind of like dangling off the side of my desk, so that may have been why. But that's the thing that you'll see with the version 2.0 board sometimes, is that it will blink in and out just like it did. So that's what I wanted to see if what would happen. So if it does blink in and out occasionally, that's what will happen if you were to use this for anything in particular. But other than that hiccup, it seems to be working. I haven't seen another hiccup since. So again, I'm just going to let it run for about another 10 minutes and see what happens. And then probably about another 5 minutes we'll go into another... we'll see if Killer Instinct has any spectate modes, and we'll see if... we'll see. If not, then we'll go into a different Killer Instinct spectate mode. But as you can see, it just did it again during the transition. It looked like during the video transition. So it blinked in and out, which shouldn't be too big of a deal if you're broadcasting this spectate modes and whatnot, but it could be an issue if it happens more often. So we'll just see what happens after this here. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm waiting for a video at the end of the game where it plays a video of a game, because that's usually when it cuts out the video briefly. It blinks in and out. So I'm kind of waiting to see what happens when after these two fight, and see what happens, and see if it blinks out again. It may just be when it's trying to play that video. Yeah, so it seems like when it goes to that screen right at the end there, it seems to blink in and out real quick. But other than the full fighting of it, it doesn't seem to hamper it or anything. Just when it once the game finishes and it goes to that like ending video or whatever it is, it blinks in and out briefly. But other than that, it doesn't blink out during the fighting games here when you're in spectate mode. So let's see what happens here. And if the video quality is bad on here, by the way, it may be because my bit rate's kind of low. It's only YouTube's telling me that my current bit rate is 2669 kilobytes per second, and it's recommending 4500 kilobits per second. So if there's any if there's any like slowness or jerkiness, that's not the video I'm seeing on screen and my computer. That's just, it may be the bit rate that I have. So hopefully that's not an issue. I'm not sure if that would even be an issue with the streaming, but alright, so looked like it didn't blink in and out that time either, but it seems that ending screen after a fight, it'll sometimes blink in and out. So let's, I'm going to exit out of here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, for a final thing before we go into another spectate, I'm going to go ahead and put the settings. I'm going to turn scan lines on. Just to see. I don't think that's gonna, it's not gonna affect anything. I just make sure it took, yeah. I just want to see if it actually does anything, so we'll go into another spectate mode here. That's how it looks with scan lines. Really don't like the scan lines, but it may just be because it's, I got expanded at 1920 by 1080 as well. So. Let's go out of here real quick. I'm going to go into, turn off those scan lines. I'm just curious to see. I was going to CRT style. Let's see what that does. No, didn't want to go in there. Didn't look too bad. Alright, didn't want to go in there. Let's go this game. Alright. Let's just turn off the scan lines altogether and put smoothing on. I just kind of want to see what what it looks like. Haven't seen it. All right. I like the smoothing effect. Let's go into one more spectate mode for about 5 minutes and then call it. So I got smoothing on this time. Oh, he left. One more one. Let's see what happens. And again, I got smoothing on, so let's see how that looks. I guess it looks blurry when you got the smoothing on. Now I can't really tell. I don't know the game, so I can't really tell if it's like, I don't know if it's the video card or if it's the capture card. But it looks like in some cases sometimes it jumps ahead. I don't know how to explain it. It's like it seems like the character, like the movement's too quick. I guess I can't really explain it. I don't know if you guys see it or not, but it just. Maybe it's just me. I've never really played this game, so I can't really say. But at any rate, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Said 15 minutes. We're at the 30-minute mark. So go back to the main menu here. Turn down the volume. There we go. All right, yeah. So, so just in conclusion, so basically, just explain again what we did here. So, was there a way to stream the Killer Instinct game to a computer so that you can broadcast it on YouTube for, spectator mode for people who want to do tournaments and things like that? And the answer is yes, you can, but you have to get the Geekworm version 2.0 board. The version 1.5 board will not work. The version 2.5 board will not work. The version 2.5 will actually come up, but then it'll start blinking in and out. And it does that for pretty much any PCB for Arcade 1-Up. It's just with the board. But the version 2 one works. Now for this test, I used an Elgato HD60X capture device. Normally, my normal capture device I can't find, and that was just like a cheap. It was just a cheap HDMI to USB 3 capture card. Now, when I tested that, a few months ago with Outrun and Goldent TXL, I had to set the jumper to single 8 on the Geekworm board. Now, for this Elgato device, I didn't have to do that. And I would see why not. It's a $200 device. So, whereas the other cheaper one was $40. But either way, when I find my other device, I can test it to make sure it works, regardless. But the Elgato HD60X one does work. But I'm assuming that other ones will work as well. But if you have problems with it, set the jumper to single 8. Now, the concern about the version 2.0 board, the Geekworm board, is that sometimes in some games it blinks in and out, depending on the monitor and things like that. So I didn't know what was going to happen when I'm streaming it to the computer. And what we found, it did blink in and out a few times, but it was only when after the game ended in spectator mode, when it went to like the title screen, the victory screen or whatever you want to call it, it would blink. It blinked in and out once or twice, but other than that, when watching in spectator mode, it seemed to run just fine. There was no blinking in and out while the fighting was going on, so it seemed like everything was good there. So again, it outputs when I hook it up. It's outputting on my computer at 1920 by 1080. Of course, you can go into the OBS settings, and you can tell it to stream at a different resolution. Like you can tell it to scale to 1280 by 960, so it looks like what the Arcade 1-Up would look like, or to 1280 by 1024 for the Pro, depending on how you want to do it. But by default, it's 1920 by 1080. Now, I will say, if you're using OBS to do the streaming part of it, don't change any of the settings. Like, I'm about to click on this just to look at the settings, but when you go to a device, you can't see it, of course, because I'm not streaming that part. But you've got settings like that says resolution, FPS type, device default. You want to keep it at device default. The settings I was trying to go into, I was trying to make some changes here and there, and it caused it to constantly blink in and out when I made those changes. But keeping it at the default setting for the device when you're in OBS, we haven't had any issue, as you've seen in this video. So at any rate, that's about it. Just again, wanted to show that the Geekworm board will work with this and streaming to it. It just has to be the version 2.0 board that you use. The other ones will not work. So thanks for watching. This is not a common thing that I usually do on live streams. Again, the only reason I did the live stream was just to test the spectator mode, and I played a game which I suck at anyway, but I just wanted to make sure that when I was streaming it live, that it looked okay when it was streaming, and it looks like it does. So at any rate, have a good night. If you like what you see, I have other how-to videos that may interest you, or subscribe. But thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.